Evelyn to Philip, February 22nd, 1944. My own. Out of email and not having much to say, I am resorting to this stationery. Adele's temperature was normal all day, and generally she is vastly improved. Her gums must pain terribly as she got blotchy, a few reddish spots on her face, a teething rash, and was cranky beyond management. I made her take 2 naps, which helped immensely. When I put her to sleep the second time, about 1:30, I was so dead tired that I flopped across the bed and slept soundly for 2 whole hours. Adele had rested fairly well during the night, giving me a chance to catch up on my rest. During the day, she was unusually trying. Page 2, hence the tiredness. I awoke feeling totally rested and wide awake for the first time in a few weeks. It rained all day and was dark and dreary. I did a lot of cleaning and little things. The house looks neat and clean. The politicians have arranged to register voters in their various sections tomorrow, and I hope to straighten out my registration once and for all. Mom and Goldie will register too. Dr. Gale moved to Elkins Park today. He had moved his offices earlier and now has changed his residence. Goldie gave me the enclosed prayer, and if you'll insert the correct sex where necessary, you'll find it very beautiful, or so I think. Al had a tooth pulled and had a hemorrhage that is keeping him in bed 2 days. There was no delivery of mail today, and I'm looking forward to tomorrow's mail. I love you, my precious Phil. Your Ev. Philip to Evelyn, February 22nd, 1944. My own darling. Yesterday afternoon, just as I was finishing up my work for the day, your 2 letters of the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th of February arrived, together with Jack N's of 25th of January. All 3 letters were delectable in the extreme. So gratifying were they, in fact, that I spent the rest of the evening reading and rereading them. Then, too, there were the 16 snapshots to be considered, and reconsidered, and re-reconsidered, etc. Altogether, I think I have a pretty good excuse for not writing last night, Chippy? About the snapshots. No mere words of mine can tell you or make you appreciate how very welcome they were and are. As pictures, I agree with you that they left much to be desired. You didn't say who took them, but I presume it was Pete. I want to thank the person responsible for all the trouble he took on my behalf, and I want him to know that I appreciate his good intentions. But I think he would make better pictures if he reckoned with the glare of the sun, looked out for bad shadows, and held the camera just a little steadier when snapping. As I said before, sweet, the pictures as such are pretty poor, but as a reflection of you and all my dear ones in your present circumstances and environment, and as the yardstick by which to measure the progress and development of the pumpkin, they left very little to find fault with. I thought everyone looked in the pink. Evidently, rationing has had very little effect on any of you. The pumpkin is very sweet and beautiful in most of the snaps, and it did her daddy's proud heart good to see how well formed she is, and how fair of face and mien, and how she stands on her own sturdy little legs. My Chippy looks very smart indeed in her new attire. The fur coat is just as I pictured it, and very good looking. The suit is very natty and most becoming. As far as I can see, but I must admit not very clearly, you look very well, my darling, and on the whole, taking everything into consideration, I am very, very proud of you and the pumpkin. It is difficult from the pictures to distinguish clearly just how Mom is looking these days, but her well-loved features are readily recognizable and brought a warm response in my heart. Harry and Goldie look fit and ready for anything. It just struck me, and I don't mean to be facetious, that they are certainly a couple of solid citizens and shouldn't experience any difficulty whatever in their coming ordeal. Let's hope the newcomer turns out to be another solid citizen. Somehow, I just can't picture them producing anything but a boy. As a matter of fact, if I get an announcement reading it's a girl, I'll have a hell of a time getting myself to believe it. Gloria, the only other member of the family I haven't mentioned, looks very sweet and demure in her little girl dress. I don't know why the neighbors failed to get their pictures taken, but I spotted Betty and Sarah in the background, and Natalie, of course, posed with Adele. Nana is certainly getting to be a very attractive young miss, and her added poundage is becoming. Last but far from unimportant is 4906. The familiar and attractive front of My Home and Yours Baby is very good to look upon after these many months, and many's the time I wished myself there. I should have known you would remember St. Valentine's Day, sweetheart, and I feel a fool for having forgotten it myself. Then, to make matters worse, I implied in my last letter that Ruthie had remembered where you had forgotten. My humble apologies, Chippy, for having so misjudged you. As for my own defection, I can only say that I remind you each day that you are my one and only Valentine. In answer to your clever little verse, I've read much better poetry, with meter, rhyme, and symmetry. I've heard more honeyed words than thine. Still, you are my Valentine. Page 2. Your intention of buying a gold bracelet for the pumpkin reminds me of something I had in mind a while back, but forgot to communicate to you. I was thinking that for a very little cost, you could have my school ring melted down and made into a baby ring. The school ring as such doesn't mean much to me, and I really wouldn't miss it, especially since I've grown accustomed to being without it. You might get an estimate and let me know the particulars. By the way, I still don't know what, if anything, I bought her for her birthday. My plexiglass watch crystal, for your and Snuffy's information, like Bon Ami, hasn't scratched yet. That color combination you have selected for Mom's sweater is very attractive. I can just picture it. Page 3. You ask me again if your letters to me are censored. I've already advised you that they are not, so if you have anything real fresh to say, don't be bashful. Jack's letter of the 25th of January is a masterpiece of sympathetic writing. Evidently, he was deeply moved by your reception. As for my being jealous of Jack, I am happy to report that I feel no vestige of that unhappy emotion on his account. What I said before in that connection, though, still holds true, so please be careful, will you, baby? I will say that I envy Jack the rare privilege of having you confide your tears to his shoulder, but the knowledge that they were shed in my behalf is even more gratifying, and I don't mind confessing that the contemplation of the little tableau brought a lump to my throat, too. I can't make up my mind whether we are blessed or cursed with the gift of sentimentality, but certainly it is that quality in us engenders a host of conflicting emotions. I say we because I place myself in the category of sentimentalists, together with you and Jack. Since I returned from London the other day, I haven't done a thing out of the ordinary run-of-the-mill chores. My work in the orderly room is keeping me increasingly busy, but once in a while I catch up with my work and I have an hour or so to kill. That's how come I'm able to knock off a letter of this size. You want to know if I'd care for tuna or sardines, etc. Ordinarily, yes, but under the circumstances, no. You see, in order to really enjoy something like that, I'd have to procure mayonnaise, bread, etc., and that's a little out of the question. Really, Ev, I miss those things very little. We are uncommonly well fed here, and now that we are getting ice cream regularly every Tuesday, I don't want for a thing as far as food goes. Of course, the shortage of chocolate candy is still acute, and I, for one, rarely get my fill of it. So next time you send off a package, don't waste any space whatever that will hold even a lick of some sort of chocolate. If you really want to earn my undying gratitude, you could do so by sending me a box of Milky Ways, Mars bars, O. Henry, or something of the sort. Plain chocolate, such as those large Hershey bars or Nestle's, are especially welcome. You needn't worry your pretty head any more when you are trying to decide what to put in a package for me. Just send any of the above as frequently and as copiously as you possibly can. You can advise all the other interested parties to that effect. If there is anything at all which I cannot obtain over here, I will ask for it specifically. Finally, remember that it takes some 6 or 7 weeks for packages to get here, so mail early and often. I thank you. The snapshots, while they served admirably to allay my hunger for the sight of you and the cherub and the family, do not fill or lessen my desire for a real picture. In short, when do I get that Claire Pruitt picture? You have been putting me off for 2 months now, Ev, and I feel I have a right to be impatient for some concrete evidence of your good intentions. Now, how's about it? And now it's time for supper and that ever-loving ice cream. Hope it's chocolate tonight. A hasty au revoir, my darling, and a lingering kiss for you. A great big hug for the pumpkin, and my love to all. Your adoring Phil. Jack Strongin to his brother Philip, February 22nd, 1944. My dear GI brother, received your letter in which you gave me somewhat of a reprimand for not writing you a lengthy letter. I can assure you, dear brother of mine, that it's no fault of mine. I wrote you a long epistle in detail a little over a month ago, and it was one of my best compositions. However, it is quite possible that it was lost. After all, anything could happen to it between here and where you are stationed. I'm presuming that that letter will not reach you, so will tell you in this piece of scribe just what is cooking here in tropical Guinea. My outfit is a detachment of Headquarter Company. We have a very nice area, and our tents, although not luxurious, are quite comfortable. There are 4 GIs to each tent. All tents are uniform. The furnishings consist of 4 canvas cots with mattress and 2 blankets, 4 improvised foot lockers, table, center of tent, gasoline lamp, and a washstand at the rear of the tent. All tents have wooden floor and mosquito nets over every bunk. Page 2. We are able to obtain from the supply room bomb sprays, insecticide, and insect repellent whenever needed. You can be sure that we take every precaution to avert getting malaria. At every dinner, we have an officer check to see that all the boys take their alibrine. We have reveille every morning, excluding Sundays, at 5:45 a.m. and breakfast at 6 a.m. Breakfast usually consists of cold storage eggs, bacon, stewed fruit, and coffee. Some days we have pancakes. After breakfast, we prepare our tents for inspection. By that time, it is 7:30 a.m., and we go to our respective jobs. I was a PX warehouseman up until a few days ago, and now I'm doing office work for PX Supplies. I can't tell you just what type of clerical work it is, for it is quite confidential. We quit work at 4:30 p.m., 1 hour off for lunch, and chow at 5 p.m. Sometimes we have extra duty after dinner. Usually my leisure moments are from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. At 6 p.m. I go down to the stream to bathe and take a swim, after which I write letters, and all my time after writing is spent sketching portraits of the fellows here, going to shows, playing table tennis, and making souvenirs from page 3, discarded shells and Aussie coins. Lights go out at 10 p.m., and so ends a day in New Guinea. The chow here is excellent considering the conditions here. We usually have ice cream and pie, your favorite dish, on Sundays. The climate is tropical, hot during the day and cool evenings. Cleanliness is absolutely necessary in this part of the world where diseases are plenty. We kid around with the natives, but close contact with them is taboo, as they are a disease-ridden lot. Here are a few native words and translations. Kai Kai, pronounced K-Y-K-Y, for food, Mary when referring to a girlfriend or wife, and pom-pom for intercourse. The natives here practice polygamy, for they can have more than one wife costing them one pig. They are very friendly and have a great hatred for Japs. They just as soon kill a Jap as to look at him. The natives are doing a good share of the work here, and are certainly doing their part to get this darn war over with our side victorious. It is not rare to see natives wearing GI apparel. Just the other day, I saw a native use a GI overseas cap for a handbag. Page 4. Oh yes, Phil, the natives are of the fuzzy wuzzy type. They are called fuzzy wuzzies, for they have long fuzzy hair. Here's a rough sketch of one. In my next letter, I will make a good sketch in pencil. I can't send you any sketches as I give them to the fellows who pose for them. So I have made about 30 sketches of the fellows here. 1 hour sketches, and certainly have improved. I visited a battlefield, and honestly, Phil, the boys had a very difficult job driving the Japs out some time ago. The jungle is very dense, and you can't see what is 10 feet ahead of you. And realizing the Japs were expertly camouflaged, they had to fight an unseen enemy. It's really tough fighting in this type of terrain, but the infantry is doing an excellent job under adverse conditions. Hoping that this letter will satisfy you, I remain your loving kid brother, Private Jack. P.S. I'm enclosing our newspaper, The Guinea Gold.